Aloha and welcome back to my channel. In this video we're going to be talking about the basics of growing crops, and I'm going to show you the four elements that was suggested by a good friend of mine, Farmer John Hawaii, and you can also search him up on Instagram. So these are the four basics. Of course, you're going to need soil, compost, mulch, and we're also using black cinders. Okay, so soil and compost, you can get them separate, or you can get it like this, which is already 50-50. In Hawaii they call it nursery mix, but it's just basically 50% soil, 50% compost. Okay, and then we have good old-fashioned mulch. Okay, and then we're also using black cinders, and that's for the irrigation for the soil clay. And these are the four basic needs. And I'm also, as you can see, going to be planting in raised beds right behind me. Okay, so these are the basics, and I'll show you how to put it in and at the levels also. So stay tuned. Alright everyone, so let's get started. We're going to start filling it with the soil compost mix. At first we're going to start with a thin layer on the bottom, even it out. And then we're going to mix in our black cinders. So the black cinders are for irrigation, which is basically to help filter water. So we're going to give that a good mix. Okay, once we mix it in, we're going to flatten it. Now this is my first bed that I've already started. I wanted you guys to see what it looks like. Okay, so in this bed I have kale and Swedish charge and one eggplant. And it's a very simple process. So for my beds, there's 3 tiers, you can see 3 levels. Okay, so for this bed, I filled it 2/3 up. Okay, so 1, 2, 2/3. The reason why I only filled it 2/3 high is because this is greens. Like I said, it's kale and Swiss chard. These grow upwards, so it doesn't really need a thick bed of soil, because once again it grows upwards. So 3/4 is about the sweet spot. And these plants were bought from the store. So when you buy store plants, when you dig your hole, a good rule of thumb is to make sure that the hole that you dig is about the same height or same level as the pot that the plant came in. If the pot was, for example, 4 inches, then you dig a 4-foot hole. If it was 5 inches, a 5-foot hole. And then after that, you put a layer of 1 to 2 inches of mulch, sometimes 3. Once again, it all depends on what you are growing. But a layer of 1 to 2 inches is a starting point. And I have space for 2 more eggplants, which I'm going to get soon. Okay, so here's the fresh bed. Okay, so I'm going to continue filling this bed up. The first bed, I have my greens in there, and that one I'm filling 2/3. Put my crops in, and a couple inches of mulch. On this bed, I'm going to be planting potatoes and sweet potatoes. So always keep in mind the thickness of your bed will depend on what you are growing. So my Swiss chard, my kale, it grows up, doesn't need a thick bed. For potatoes, you need a thick bed. And the depth of my beds are roughly 16 inches. I'm gonna fill my beds for this one almost to the top, maybe an inch or so, an inch or two from the top. Because potatoes, sweet potatoes, they grow downwards and they need a thick bed to grow. Work smarter, not harder, you know. If the soil is too heavy, you know, scoop some out till it's manageable enough for you to carry, you know. Make sure it's even. Now for potatoes, you need troughs. These are what troughs are. They're basically ditches. And they're roughly about 6 inches deep. That's a good starting point for potatoes. Okay, once you have your troughs, you lay your potatoes or your plants. Right here, these first 3 plants are kalo. And the other 4 plants are sweet potato. Now I have 3 rows in this bed. The middle row is red potatoes, and the row that's closer to the sidewalk is half Okinawan sweet potatoes, the purple, and then the other half is yams. And also, a good rule of thumb, after you plant something, immediately water it. So you're just gonna shoot the water over each plant for a couple seconds and do it twice. Another good thing to remember is that you don't want your soil to be super compact. it is, it ain't gonna grow. And the way to see if it is compact or not is if after you water it, if there's still pools of water on it. If there's pools of water, that means it's too compact and you gotta irrigate it. But I hope you guys like my video and stay tuned for more.